Hello everybody and welcome to another in-depth deck building video here at Playing Board Games. If you don't know what these are, is I take a concept for a deck and I build it in-depthly, which means that I'm going to talk through my decisions as much detail as I have in my head as I'm going through them and kind of weigh the pros and cons of all the decisions for the decks. I have been working in this series on focusing on archetypes. So we've done Firearm Guardian, we did Hand Size Seeker, we did Big Money Rogue, we did Doom Mystic. The thing we're going to do for Survivor here is the Discard Archetype, which got a lot of support in the Drowned City expansion that just came out. I have narrowed this down to 4 of the investigators to build this deck around, because we want to try to build the most straightforward and simple, kind of approachable discard deck that we can do here. While every Survivor, for the most part, can do a discard deck, especially with the support that just came out for it, I think we're going to focus on these 4 investigators because they have the most hyper-focused discard build kind of built into them. The first one is Ashcan Pete. He has a Lightning Bolt, discard a card from your hand, ready an asset you control. What this means is that he has a payoff built into his card that allows him to discard, but also take advantage of cards that get bonuses from being discarded. The next one is George Barnaby. This is the investigator that came out in the Drowned City expansion. The nice thing about him is that he turns his discard into card draw. So you're essentially mitigating some of the downside associated with discarding cards. So that's a very nice thing that he has going for him. The other thing about him is that he is very, very strong. A lot of people say that he is an S-tier investigator, and while I haven't done a campaign play with him or seen more than one campaign play with George Barnaby, I can confirm that this old MFer is very strong. Next up, we got Wendy Adams. When you reveal Chaos tokens, choose to discard a card from your hand, cancel that Chaos token and return it to the bag, reveal a new Chaos token. What Wendy Adams has going for her is, like Ashcan Pete, she has a way to discard cards from her hand, which also just makes her just generically better at passing tests. So like Ashcan Pete, she has that benefit. Last one we have here is Patrice, who, while she is one of the 4, she is one of the 4 that is not going to make the cut, mostly due to the fact that she is a little bit gimmicky. And unlike these other investigators who can discard by choice, Patrice Hathaway kind of has to discard because she has to. Like, she just kind of has to do it. I'm going to cut Wendy out of here. Her deck building is a Rogue 02. I think leads her to kind of a different space than what I want to be doing with this very basic discard deck. And that leaves us between Ashcan Pete and George Barnaby. I'm going to go with George Barnaby, not because he is strong, albeit it is very nice that this MFer is very strong. The benefit for George Barnaby is the fact that he has a stat line that is easier to use some of the discard cards that just came out in the new cycle to a greater effect, and that's why I'm going to be focusing on him today. Astute says, personally I choose Yorick, but the characters you list are probably more straightforward way to build for. That's the reason for these ones. Yorick would do a very good discard deck as well, but I think that for just a straightforward discard deck, I think it's just easier to go within those that have it kind of just naturally built into their thing. So we're going to go George Barnaby. We're going to go Private. We're going to go with Fatality. Hello, the Wizard in the Tree. Thank you for your Twitch Prime. Welcome to the Golden Table. It's a pleasure to have you, and I love your username. We're going to go Current Taboo, and let's just take a look at George Barnaby here. So your max hand size is equal to the number of face-down cards beneath George Barnaby, limit 5 cards. So like Patrice, he kind of has a slight gimmick that we need to be working towards. However, what's nice about him is that his gimmick feeds into discard differently than Patrice Hathaway. Patrice Hathaway has to discard the cards from her hand, but it means that you can't carry through a plan from one turn to another because of that. You kind of just have to have it happen when it happens and go from there. George Barnaby, on the other side, is you can build a long-term plan with him and take control and take power over your discard effects when you want to do them. He also has a passive. You can may commit face-down cards beneath George Barnaby's skill tests as if they were in your hand, and then as a reaction, after you discard a card from your hand, place it face down beneath George Barnaby, then draw 1 card, limit once per phase. So this is where the payoff to all the discard happens. So the cards you're discarding form your hand size. The cards that you discard, you're going to be able to commit later on in the scenario. The cards you discard are also going to be replacing themselves once per phase. So ideally, we want to look at trying to discard a card from our hand every phase. We want to do Mythos, Investigator phase, Enemy phase, Upkeep phase. Notably, during the upkeep phase, when you discard a card to hand size, if you have not yet triggered this round, you do get to do that. Like, you get to trigger the ability. But it works a little bit funky where you only check your hand size on the first one. So if, like, say, for example, I mean, it don't really works out, but just know it's a little bit funky. And George Barnaby himself, the gameplay loop is a little bit funky, and you're likely going to have to spend a scenario or two wrapping your head around his ability. I know I did when I first played him. I was making a lot of mistakes. He's very prone to just small little errors the first time you play him, but just something to keep in mind. Take it slow, and you'll be fine. His deck building size is 30-35. His deck building options are Survivor 0-5, Neutral 0-5, and up to 10 other level 0 Seeker and or Rogue cards, which there's a lot of options we can have here, and we're going to kind of talk about all of those. His deck building requirements, 3 copies of Grim Resolve. It's a skill, commits for a wild. After the skill test resolves, you may swap any number of cards beneath George Barnaby with the same number of non-weakness cards in your hand. So this is a good way for you to flip-flop between what you have committed versus what you have, like what you want to commit versus what you want to put back into your hand. He also has 1 copy of his weakness, Cast Adrift, which is if there are no cards beneath him, you shuffle it into your deck. Otherwise, discard each card beneath George Barnaby. For all, just to keep it simple for the rest of this video, the cards beneath George Barnaby we're going to call the boat. And when this happens, your boat breaks, and you drop everything out of your boat. This can be a really bad turn depending on when it happens. This is actually something that I think was very interesting to see whenever Bryn drew this card. He was always upset by it. And I think that's a really cool thing that George Barnaby has. Well, maybe not tempering the power level of him enough, it does cause him to have some issues, which, you know, I think is a little bit more engaging because you have to be aware of it. Because just like losing everything in your boat can really cause things to go behind. Because one thing to know, that when you discard cards from this, this will happen, like if you draw this during the upkeep phase, your hand size will go down to 0, right? Because you remember your hand size is equal to the number of cards in your boat. Additional setup, do not forget this. After drawing your opening hand, you may place any number of cards in your hand face down beneath George Barnaby. So you can start with a very basic hand size, play some assets, potentially discard a card to hand size during upkeep, and then get a really good foundation and start going from there. Okay, let's do the thing we always do. We're going to only focus on level 0 for this deck. We're going to search the word discard and see what we get here. So, there is a cycle of cards that came out within this cycle. That's Anchor Chain, Nautical Charts, and Handhook. They all work somewhat similarly. While they're in your hand, you may perform the below action ability. If you do, discard it instead of exhausting it. And then as an action, exhaust Anchor Chain, evade. You get +1 foot for this evasion attempt. If you successfully evade a non-elite enemy, you may discard 1 card from your hand to prevent that enemy from readying during the next upkeep phase. For the clue one, you get an additional clue. For the Handhook, you make it deal 2 damage total instead of just 1. We knew these cards were going to be good, especially Nautical Charts, and to a lesser extent Anchor Chain. But it turns out that these cards are actually really nice, especially for that top ability. They're looking at like this with Handhook, right? People looked at Handhook and they thought, man, this card stinks. This card only deals +1 damage if you exhaust it and discard a card. That's crazy. But it turns out having an event that is free 2 damage is wild. It's actually very good at getting the job done. Can you guys imagine a zero cost event that dealt 3 damage, like people were saying that this should always just deal +1 damage, and if you succeed it deals +2 damage instead, that would have been wild. Turns out this card is actually super functional as an event spell. We're probably, because we need to put 35 cards into this deck, we are probably going to be using all of these tools in a variety of different ways. I don't know the exact number, but I think Anchor Chain, Hand Hook, and then also Nautical Charts over here are all going to have some sort of showing in our deck. Okay, a few things to consider. You have to discard the card from your hand, which means that discarding a card from play, like even though it's here, but this is discard Cult Vest Pocket, this will not trigger because it's coming from play. So just something, there's going to be some cards here that don't actually fit. But I'm just going to silently scroll through, and I'm going to just kind of like note a few cards when I see them. So just bear with me. It also gives me a little bit of a break. Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So I think that there's also an interesting spot for this Improvised Shield and this Profane Idol, where they can only be played from your discard pile. So the cost of these cards is essentially you have to discard it first. And then when it's defeated, you shuffle it into your deck instead of discarding it. Profane Idol soaks for 3 horror, and the Improvised Shield soaks for 3 damage. There's also a case for these in this deck here. So that's something we're going to be considering as we get in here as well. Just kind of flagging cards on our first pass. I'm still also trying to determine what the goal of this deck is. George Barnaby has a really nice stat line to kind of just do what's needed. I'm covering the foot right now, but you can see it's 3 foot. He has a really nice stat line for flexing. So that's kind of what I'm like pulled to first, but we'll have to see what happens. Lawrence Carlisle. After you discard 1 or more cards from your hand during your turn, exhaust them to gain 1 resource. Allows us to have an upkeep engine in our deck. Not a bad thing to consider. Artistic Inspiration. You can exhaust and discard a card from your hand to replenish 1 inspiration on this card. After revealing Chaos tokens, you may spend 1 inspiration. You get +1 or -1 skill value. This is good. Like, this is a very strong effect. It's weighed down by this discard a card from your hand effect for most other investigators. But the reality is with George Barnaby, the more forced discard, like abilities that allow you to discard on command you can find in your deck, the better your deck is going to be. So we're going to be putting a flag in this one as well. Forced learning is another thing to consider here. It increases your deck size by 15, and during the upkeep phase, instead of drawing 1 card, draw 2 cards and discard 1 of them. Again, to most other people, this is a downside, but to George Barnaby, he sees this, and he sees draw 2 cards, you say. I'll draw 2, get rid of 1, and then draw another. I don't know if I'm going to put this card in this deck, mostly because it increases the deck size, and I'm a little bit much more of the belief that I'd rather have a 35 card deck than a 50 card deck, right? But it's not a bad way to go with George Barnaby. But one thing is, don't be surprised if I do not run this way as the deck goes. I don't think it's a bad choice. Like, I don't think it's bad. I actually think it's very good. But it's not necessarily what I look to do when I'm building my decks. So that's kind of the reason we have there. This card discards from hand, but I don't know if we're going to consider it. So yeah, you can choose and discard an item mass that takes up at least 1 hand slot from your hand or play area. We really like Glimmer of Hope because it allows us to have something to discard that we can then use later. So it can only be played from your discard pile. Add all copies of Glimmer of Hope in your discard pile to your hand, including this copy. I feel like Forced Learning is a much must for George. So here's the thing. I agree with your statement, but I disagree with your statement. I think it is very good for George, but I do not think it is a must, because I look at that. So what I look at this for, like, my play style is, what I do is I see this and I see I'm going to have the worst mulligan of my life, and I'm going to get better as the scenario goes. What I would like to prefer instead is I would like to have the best mulligan in my life and get better as the scenario goes, right? You're sacrificing upfront consistency for mid to late game value, but I personally believe you do not need to sacrifice that upfront consistency, and you can get the same sort of value as things goes. I think if you're playing things from your discard pile, Improvised Shield, Profane Idol, Glimmer of Hope, Forced Learning stocks go up. But if you're looking at it to just draw cards, I think there are better ways to draw cards in the phases of the game that Forced Learning is just going to ultimately be wasted material. Okay, Fortuitous Discovery I think is actually really nice in George Barnaby. It cares about the number of cards in your discard pile. And then you get +X for this investigation if you discover X additional clues. This isn't allowing us to discard, but what it does do, it allows us once again to take advantage of things that we are discarding. I feel this is going back to the Safina thing of it feels worse than a normal mulligan. Well, not really. I don't want to get sidetracked here, Raptor Ritter, so I'm unfortunately going to ignore this for the time being, but it is a different thing. I think that you are misconstruing the Safina point. Called Invocation is a way for us to discard cards from our hand and also deal damage. Again, these are the things we're looking for. Anything that discards on command is very nice. Unconventional Method, unlike Catch, I think is probably going to see play as this thing goes. Because it gets clues, which is better than evading on command. Like, I'd rather spend an event to get more clues than an event to just evade an enemy. So that's probably going to make the cut. Winging it is another thing. And also maybe Improvised Weapon. The main reason, again, is that this is something that we are looking to discard, and if we are able to then play it from our discard pile for better, we can ignore that first upfront cost of the card, of losing the card, right? So, like, the other thing is that if we don't have a way to force discard this, we have to play a slightly bad event to get the good part of the event. But George Barnaby says, no, we're just going to get the good part of the event while getting value off of the bad part of the event. Okay, there are also some stuff in the upgrades, but because we're building a level 0 deck, I'm not going to spend too long on these. The important cards here, though, Gift of Nodens is something you can build around, but we're not going to get into that, the meat and potatoes of that here. Bound for the Horizon, I think, is a must for George Barnaby. It's one of those things where it's being able to move, but also draw a card is very good. So I think with every other investigator, like, Bound for the Horizon is still good. But, like, the concept of turning any card into your hand into a shortcut is very powerful, right? A shortcut for you, not for anybody. But the thing that makes this card bonkers in George Barnaby is that this card also just, like, replaces itself. Like, the card that you're discarding becomes something new, and that's really spicy. Likewise with Cornered, this is like what you build around, at least into discard, before everything else existed. I'm pretty sure you could build a George Barnaby deck without Cornered, but it's very nice to have that in there as well. So I think that it's one of those things that, again, it's just a discard on command to get one of these. Ample Supplies has turned out to be better than expected, because it's one of those things where you're discarding cards and then just suddenly you're like, oh, I can get 8 resources because you're discarding so many cards as the game goes. Then when you need a burst, you can get there. It's not great, mind you, but it is something to consider as well. And going back to what Astute was saying, if you were playing a Will Yorick discard deck, I would definitely look at this thing. This thing goes crazy hard in a discard Will Yorick deck. How do you compare Ample Supplies to Investments? Raptor, I'll answer that question if you remember to ask at the end, but this is not that kind of video. not talking about investments. Doesn't exist right now. Well, it does for George Barnaby, but we're not going to be even looking at investments. But I would consider ample supplies in this deck. Upgraded Glimmer of Hope is fine to go through as well. Improvised Weapon, as I mentioned, you probably want the upgraded version, but not the level 0 version. Just again, it's the same thing where you get to ignore the upfront cost, but you don't need to do the, you can still get the big value out of it. Okay, I think Persistence is also really nice in George Barney for a build as it goes, because it allows you to discard it and shuffle it back into your deck, commit it from there. So you can like discard it, put it underneath George, commit it underneath George, play from your discard pile, shuffle into your deck, and repeat the process again. So those were the simple things, but yeah, Lucas does ask, the Occult Lexicon is another nice option, mostly because of Bloodright, which allows you again to discard and deal damage as it goes. So that was kind of the full discard package, but now we need to start figuring out what we are going to do. And I feel like the answer is flex, right? I feel like this answer here is to be flexible. So we're going to go back to discard and we're going to look at all of the stuff that we have here. I also need to decide my ally. And again, you might think, but Justin just played Lawrence Carlisle. And I might. He's probably going to make the cut, but I don't know if he is going to make the cut. I am going to take 2 of the nautical charts, as mentioned. This is the one I want to put into play. This is the one that I want to have at least one of these in play. And I want to be able to use it for the bottom ability like every turn in a perfect world. So I want to get +1 book, and I want to like discard a card and discover an additional clue at least once a turn. Investigating at 5 is very comfortable. If we do end up playing Lawrence Carlisle, this can put us to 6, which is also very comfortable. I am going to run 2 copies of Handhook. However, these are here for a different reason compared to the nautical charts. While with the nautical charts, we want these cards to live forever in play, Handhook is actually here for just the kill spell event mode, where we get to play a 0 cost, deal 2 damage attack, which is really good. Yes, it costs us an additional card, but that card is going to go underneath us for, you know, the skill icons, and then we're going to like, you know, get to kill someone in the process and replace it. This is a good time as well to kind of stop back at George Barnaby for a second. Because we get to commit the cards beneath us, we are going to be drawn to doing the skill cards as like our hope to discard as much as possible. Because we really want to try to have these effects, like, so we can discard events or assets from our hand, right? And we can still commit them to get value out of them, right? But the real value is if we can do skill cards where then when you commit them, they also get to do something else. Like, compare, for example, committing nautical charts beneath us to, I don't know, how about this beautiful thing right here, resourceful beneath us, right? So that's kind of like what our focus will be. We're going to have a lot of skills in this deck and a lot of card draw in this deck and a lot of ways to discard on command and then a lot of ways to just ensure that we are giving incremental value to the team so that we're always ahead. Back up here, I think I am going to run 2 anchor chains as well. I'm not excited about this. Like, I'm not like jumping and doing cartwheels for the fact that I can run Anchor Chain in my deck, but I do feel like it's going to be a good piece at level 0 to give the team consistency. Like Handhook, I'm going to be drawn to playing these more so for the the top here, to play it as an evade spell, right? I think that that's going to just be better in the long term, to like, rather than just putting this in play and then like evading twice with it, right? Like, the thing with nautical charts, if I spend 3 resources, I can investigate with this every turn, right? So it pays itself back, like, probably after 2 uses, right? with anchor chain, you would think that the same thing would apply, right? Where if I use it twice, I've paid it back. But evading enemies doesn't get clues, so the value is already just a little bit less, right? Evading enemies also doesn't kill enemies. Yes, this freezes them, but it's also just a little bit less, right? So it's one of those things where I look at the value of putting this into play, and I think it's a lot lower than the nautical charts. Okay, we are flexible. So I am going to run a cult lexicon as the first of our... where is it? Can I see my... No, I can't see where my seeker stuff is here. But the first of my 10 slots that I have. Because remember, yeah, here we are, limited slots. We can see them right here. So one of my 10 limited slots. A good thing too, though, is even if you have to discard an anchor chain to attest, like, to your ability, and it's underneath you, remember that you can commit them and just like get them out of there and replace them with better things, right? The junk should go out to make get the better effects in, and if you already want to play one of the better effects, just play that one instead. Okay, let's go back to discard. Discard. Okay. I might consider Moonstone. If we can't find anything else for our accessory slot, you get +1 book, sorry, +1 brain, +1 foot. You cannot play or commit Moonstone from your hand. If only we had a way to discard it and play it. After you discard Moonstone from your hand, play it, paying its cost. I'm telling you what might make it. I'm telling you what might go into our accessory slot instead. It might end up being chemistry set. Yeah, Idol of Xanatos is a good shout too. If you want protection, it's again like extra discard. And what's nice about this one is that it's really good discard during the Mythos phase, right? Which is one of the 4 phases that we optimally would love to trigger this on to draw discard cards. I think Idol of Xanatos is not a bad shout at all. We're gonna see how the rest of this all goes. So I think our hand slots in a perfect world is dropping these in our 2 hand slots and kind of having those sit here and just get the job done. So that's all. No, Trace, that's also the thing, is that Idol is good, but then you kind of have to be bad. That's kind of the thing where, like, it's good security, but the thing that Idol is like why I'm leaning against it is because I don't necessarily want to fail. And I'm going to just probably survivor my way through. And that, I think, is going to be better in the long term, at least when I look at it. I'd rather go for value over this. But we have to see how the discard shapes out, because we still want, like, the majority, like a good chunk of our deck to be discard synergy or discard payoff, right? Again, you might make the cut. We're going to have to see. I am going to run 2 copies of this Artistic Inspiration. It has a wild icon, so it's really nice when you have the first one in play to discard the second one in order to just have a wild icon that you can commit to, like, the next test that you want to commit this in. But this also is just a discard on command. So there's a lightning bolt window, get to know them, get to love them, and use this during those lightning bolt windows. If someone draws a test during the Mythos phase and you've already, like, drawn your card, you can use this to discard a card and draw a card. After enemies move, you can do this instead there. You're basically trying to find as many as possible. While I'm saying that 4 is nice to discard and draw every phase, realistically, if you get 2 or 3, you're going to be fine as well. Okay, more discard. Schaffner's Catalog is probably going to make the cut as well once we start looking at our economy. Again, I'm going to put a pin in you. I'm not saying you won't make it, but I'm leaning towards you not being there right now. Okay. Fortuitous Discovery could make the cut as well. I'm going to put that on our maybes. I guess I could do a side deck, but we'll just have to... If I forget to put this in, guys, it's because I don't think it was good enough. It's not because I forgot. That's the thing about pins. If the pins aren't there anymore, who cares? Okay. I think if you go forced learning, discovery is so much value. Agreed. That's the nice thing. It's also the nice thing about like Glimmer of Hope as well, right? Glimmer of Hope and like even winging it, they get better if you're doing, and same with Fortuitous Discovery, they all get better with forced learning. That's why Fortuitous also has the pin in it, because I think we're going to go for more of a skill build than that kind of thing. Okay, I am going to take winging it. They're going to go in here. And then unconventional method I think is also going to be a maybe. I'm taking resourceful for sure. And I think that's a good base. And you guys know what it is. It is time to take it in the thick of it. It's hard for me not to take in the thick of it. It's free. It's free. It's also one of those things where now we can start getting a bit more experience in our starting deck, which means we're going to, in theory, get more experience on the first scenario, and it's going to just like cascade from there. We're going to buy one of these. I wanted to like the hand hook, but the fact that exhaust makes it tough. No, you're playing it wrong, Dice Gods. You do not play this card. You only use it as a kill spell. It's very good at that. I agree. I think it's awful for fighting traditionally, but if this is just an event, when you have some discard synergy, this card pops the hell off. Because I agree, it is way too slow if you're using it as your weapon. But that's the secret. It's not actually a weapon. It's a beautiful kill spell. Okay, during your turn, discard this cornered. I think both options are really good, as I mentioned previously. I'm drawn towards this one, that moving is nice, but I think cornered is going to give us better experience in scenario 1. So I am going to run cornered here. And then we're just going to check out the 1 experience cards and see what we want to play here. We're going to lose the discard, and we're just going to look at these cards traditionally. Boom, boom, boom. One of these 3. Brute Force, Sharp Vision, Unrelenting. It's going to be one of these, probably. Nothing else really jumped out at me. I think ultimately the weakness... Took 1 p.m. Mountain Time plus 2 times. No difference, got 4 p.m. I've been there. I've been there, Dice Gods. I get it. All right, I want to like throw a chat with this one because I've made up my mind, but I always like to see what would you guys take with your 1 experience here: Brute Force, Sharp Vision, or Unrelenting? Which one of these cards do you think you would take in your for this last 1 XP that we have here? I know what I would take here, but I'm curious to see what other people would take. A lot of Sharp Visions. A lot of Sharp Visions. All right, I'm taking the Unrelenting. That's the I was seeing if anyone else would say Unrelenting, but Astute actually says you don't need Unrelenting. Dice God says Unrelenting. That's a big reason I agree with you, Dice Gods. Getting back up from casters can be tough without draw. Additionally, having a way to just get through your deck quicker in order to find your discard cards can be very good. Because if we have one discard card, we can discard once. We can discard once a turn, right? If we have two discard cards, we're discarding twice a turn. A single Unrelenting, just giving us a draw 2, is a very good way for us to come back from the cast adrift moment, right? And then the other is that if we need to find some more discard cards, Unrelenting can help us get there, right? Because when, like, I think there's a really good point with what Astute was saying, which is we don't need Unrelenting, right? Because we already have card draw, right? We have card draw built into our kit. But the reality is with that sort of statement, I think that's a fair statement, but what if we don't have our kit, you know? And what's very important is to find a way to make sure our kit is set up. And just some general good skill-based economy is a very nice way to do that. And I agree as well with Dice Gods. It's easy to bury in the Barnabout until you need it. You're 100% right. With that said, I don't think Sharp Vision, Persistence, Gumption, Brute Force, I don't think there's a wrong choice here. I think all of these skills are really good. But there's a reason this is in-depth deck building, and I'm explaining why I am personally choosing Unrelenting over the other ones. I think all of the choices are good. All of the choices will make an impact. But for me personally, Unrelenting is there for the consistency, especially at level 0. Because if we can if we play Unrelenting and it helps us get closer to our cornered or our artistic inspiration, we're more likely to get more clues, which means we're more likely to get more experience, which means we can buy better things quicker. Okay. All right, well, that is all the experience there. So what we should now do is we should look at the level 0 Seeker and Rogue cards. Oh, by the way, before anyone asks, this is ARKHAM build. I should have said it at the start of this video. I swear I get like 2 comments a video of people asking what ARKHAM build is, and that's super awesome because you can tell the client's good. When people are asking about it all the time, but I need to remember to just say, this is ARKHAM build, and go from there. Okay, what the hell are we going to do for our level 0 cards in our Seeker and Rogue splash? So we're going to put in 7 more cards, so an awkward 1 of, and then a bunch of 2 ofs. Hawk 2 of, okay. I'm going to actually look at these by slots for a bit. I also would like to look at the level 1 to 5. Unconventional method, I still have the pin in that one. That one probably is going to... make it through here. So the reason I'm looking at the upgraded accessories, I'm seeing if there's anything here that I think is good enough to beat Chemistry Set. And I think the answer is no. I don't think any of these are notable enough to edge this thing out of making it in here. I believe it is the Act of Desperation. Can you expand on why you like Chem Set? Because it's amazing. I play a Chemistry Set, and I'll draw on average 4 cards, gain on average like 6 resources, gain like usually 2 extra clues. That's so much for 2 resources in an action, right? It's one of those things where it's very easy if you're playing on, like, especially on standard where you know up 2, you usually are going to go down 2. So you go up, if you're up 6 because you're investigating with like a magnifying glass or something, you are up 4, you're going to probably draw a card or maybe gain 2 resources. I think it's just like very good. Additionally, because we're also already playing Artistic Inspiration, we have extra control over it, right? So now if we succeed by 3, we get to now succeed by 4 and turn it into a deduction as well. It's one of those things where, like, it can fail by exactly 2, but I'm not I don't like look at the one time I lost it. I have lost it after the first one, right? But it's not, I didn't like make me sway on chemistry set. I have a problem where I play chemistry set all the time because I think it's that good. Because also what Holy Helicopter said, it's just extra good stuff on what would be a basic investigate otherwise. It's why I also like Burn After Reading. But I do think that chemistry set is going to make the cut here. And then next up, we're going to look at our ally. Let's look at the upgrades. See who we're going to build towards. Probably Granny. It's probably Granny Orn. We also have to look at our curve once we get deeper in here. We'll worry about that in a few. So I think I'm going to put in Lawrence Carlisle. But I think he's not going to make the cut in the long term, and we're going to put Granny Orn 3 in the side deck. So I actually said when Lawrence Carlisle was spoiled, I said, my God, it's level 0 Granny Orn. And I do stand by that still today. I do think that that is a very thing that I'm gonna be using this guy a lot as just my Granny Orn 0. He has that other discard synergy I mentioned earlier. He's gonna do great, and we also need to rush out to upgrade him because he'll last a while. But I do think the upgraded Granny Orn over here in the side deck is going to be where we want to go as we upgrade. Okay, well, those are the slots that we need to fill. I don't think we want to look at something for our hand slots. I think now we just want to look at some value in our other areas. We can drop Survivor from this now. Lawrence finishes a sculpture, comes to life, it's Granny Orn. Hell yeah. I don't think Research Librarian's a bad get either for like the lexicon or the charts. But I think in the long term, my plan would be to draw through my deck quicker once we get to our skills. I still need to put, what is that, 16 more cards in here? I still need my awkward one of. I mean, forced learning would be a perfect awkward one of, wouldn't it? I mean, we're probably going to be a little bit boring here. Faustian, probably. I think we just got to go to the good stuff. You get to make Artistic Inspiration the awkward one of. No, I don't want to. It has an icon, like a wild icon's really good, and I really want to get that in play. I think our awkward one of is actually going to be an intel report. Our awkward one of is going to be a one of intel report. Because it's good in scenario 1, it's good in scenario 8. If we find ways to get money, we can do that. If we can't, we can discard it for 2 book icons, which is really good. Is this for a particular campaign? No, this is an in-depth deck build. If I was building a deck for a random, like just any campaign, with the discard archetype, this is the deck I would build. Okay, sorry, we need to put in 4 more, so 2 more cards. Oh my, oh no. We have to make some tough choices here. I only get to put in 2 more cards. I probably want some economy. And maybe a skill? It's hard for me to say no to quick thinking. But maybe if it doesn't scale enough. I mean, it could just be deduction, right? Again, hard to say no to deduction. But I feel like because I'm flexing, I don't know how hard I want to go into deduction, right? Because I'm flexing. Like, it's good, but I think if I was playing forced learning, I would play deduction just because I want some redundancy. But I don't know if I need it, especially with the intel report. Could also still go occult lexicon. Sorry, occult invocation. We already have the lexicon for the damage. This is an interesting choice. We probably want either Faustian or burning the midnight oil. And I think it's going to be burning the midnight oil just because I think the skill icons are slightly better than the skill icons on Faustian for George. I think we probably want a skill, but I don't know if any of these skills are good enough to make it. So, chemistry set, I'll play the whole campaign. Burning the midnight oil, I'll play the whole campaign. This is a one of, I could cut it and not miss it. Artistic inspiration, I could play it the whole campaign. I want to find something that I can play the whole campaign. Cryptic Writings is an interesting choice as well. I dig it. I like Midnight Oil because I can control it. But I don't think Cryptic Writings is a bad call because you're going to be drawing so many cards with this deck. However, you have to draw during your turn, which is only one of the 4 zones we're looking to draw cards from. What would I put as here for my last card? I don't think it's economy. Oh no, a double book commit? Yeah, but if it's our economy, like we need, like, if it's the only source of economy in our deck and it doesn't hit, we have a problem, right? Like with burning the midnight oil, I know I get 2 resources out of this. Like, yeah, it has a double book that I can commit as a downside, but if it's our economy, like, that's a brain dead take. Like, we need to have economy in our deck, right? We need to have it. I agree the 2 book icons is very nice, especially with George Barnaby's ability to discard it if it is a dead draw. But I think, so what we could do, like, let's just say we did do Cryptic Writings, we'd probably play Faustian as well. But then do I want to put in 4 cards in my deck for this? That's an interesting question to look at what we need to play. I need to spend 5 on nautical charts and occult lexicon. I want to play a chemistry set, and Granny Orn costs 4 in the upgrade. I mean, our deck is pretty, we want to play a lot of assets, but we don't need to play all those assets at once. And we do also have this Lord's Carlisle to help us on the ground floor, but remember, he's leaving our deck, right? He's going away. But we don't need to play all these at once. We can kind of drip them. So really, like, some of these, their costs are kind of reduced by 1 because they're during the upkeep phase. Is Cryptic Writings and Faustian better than burning the midnight oil and a skill? That's interesting. So what skill would I play? Deduction, Eureka, or Quick Thinking? I like Inquiring Mind. I think it's definitely a good card. I don't know if I would keep it. When I'm looking at my splash cards, I'm looking reasonably at 10 cards I want to keep in my deck the whole campaign. And I don't think I want to keep Inquiring Mind the whole campaign. I think it's so good in, like, scenarios 1 to 4, but then after that you can kind of just generally do better. So that's why I'm not really, like, considering it here. I'll be honest, though, I'm kind of buying into this Faustian Cryptic Writings thing. I'm kind of buying. Because it is true. If I don't draw this during my turn, it is a double book, which is really good. It's also a great discard card. And I just have to run Faustian instead, and Faustian can help the team. I think I'm sold on it. Because I think it is true what I was saying, where if I can't play this earlier. Also makes the Unrelenting a little bit more appealing on the level 0 deck as well. But I can play Faustian for some backup econ. And this is a really good economic base. We turned him, chat. Hell yeah. I mean, I'm always listening. I'm always listening. Okay, and now we're just going to put in a bunch of good stuff. And most of this should be pretty quick. And then we'll start talking about upgrades. Okay, let's go to the pins. Let's go to some of the pins we had. All right. Moonstone, again, I think I like chemistry set more. Lawrence Carlisle made this. Schaffner's, I think with Faustian, I don't need to play Schaffner's anymore. Because, again, we're only really looking at putting down 5 XP, and the rest are all going to be events. I do think that unconventional method is going to make the cut. Yeah, I think Scrounge for Supplies is always good. Again, we're going to be discarding a card here. What's nice about this is it can turn our hand hook or our anchor chain into a deduction. I got my resourcefuls. I saw what you said earlier, Astute, about push to the limit. I definitely don't think it's a wrong choice. I have room for 9 more cards, so we have a bunch of skills and an awkward one of. let's go look at our skills. Okay. Give me long shot. So we're gonna take a long shot and contemplative here. Ooh, how are we gonna upgrade this deck? I think we put in a bunch of skills that we're gonna upgrade out of. I want contemplative and long shot, even though they don't have icons. What they do have is a build. They still commit, right? Last chance is making the cut. Last chance is making the cut for sure. Like that is, this is it for sure. You guys beat me to it, but last chance is coming in here for sure. Mostly because it's actually very nice, because it's just 1 icon. Worst case, so it's 0 icons worst case scenario, but it's very easy to be 2 icons, 3 icons, and then the upgraded version is insane. The upgraded version is nuts. It's nuts. But again, contemplative and long shot, they both commit. Also, with committing for adjacent is really good. Like committing on an adjacent test is very nice, especially for the flex base investigator when you are going to be a little bit more all over the place. I think I'm going to run one of Unexpected Courage just to kind of placehold for some of the nice things that we're going to upgrade into on our skill things, and it's just nice to have, just have there. And then I need to run one more 2 of. I don't know if it's going to be a skill. I guess it's going to be everybody's favorite. Lucky. Could be a Look What I Found. But I'm going to just run a Lucky and then upgrade into this version. Just some Mythos protection. So this is a flex leaning clues for sure. I guess it's not the end of the world to play the hand hook. Bryn did play the hand hook sometimes. What did he did? Is this he had the tool belt, I think, in his deck? I think he did some cool stuff with that. All right, let me just look at this deck's curve. Eight card that costs 3. Yeah, Lawrence Carlisle in the charts. 7 cards that cost 2. Tool belt could be the awkward one of, but I wouldn't run it. And I'm building. I'm trying to stay true to me. Yes, and that's the thing. Yeah, we have 8 3-ofs, but 2 of these, like 4 of them are not. Like they're like zeros. They're 0 cost. But again, I think you would play Handhook in a pinch, especially while you wait for the Lexicon. And you also look probably at the early ones will resourceful back the Handhook. All right, let's build our side deck. The upgrades that we would look at here. So again, I would like Bound for the Horizon, 1 of Cornered. Fatality. Hey, Pyro 911 help. Thank you for the Prime. Hope you're having a great one. Welcome to Golden Tales. Pleasure to have you. This one? Good Weather? Is this one you're talking about, Dice Gods? It's a great card. If this is the one you're talking about, it's a great card. If this is not the one you're talking about, it's also a very good card. Oh no, I think it's good. I think it's good. You're playing 3 or 4 players. This card is actively good. Glimmer? Yeah, Glimmer's also great. I like the upgraded Glimmer. I don't think this deck ended up falling into a Glimmer deck, but I do think that it is very good. We are going to take the improvised weapon in the side deck. And I think we're going to go to skills. I think I want Sharp Vision. I want the Last Chance. We want 1 more Unrelenting. Yeah, Good Weather you can basically only play at 3 or 4 players. I agree. Glimmer is very good for just having discard fodder. And that is why, ultimately, a good goal of our deck was trying to get a lot of skills that we're happy to play from here, or redundancy, which is really nice, because I'm very good at building redundancy. Yeah, I think this one can also live in our side deck. I mean, realistically, you don't need much. You can just, like, work on this. You could probably play, like, a 1 of Gift of Nodens. Like, a 1 of Gift of Nodens can come in here to work with this. Brute Force might make it in. I'm not going to put it in our side deck over here. I'm going to do the improvised weapon instead. But I think this is what I would look at for this. This would be my in-depth deck build George Barnaby discard deck. Again, make your own changes. Do what suits your play style, right? Because ultimately a lot of the decisions here are based on me and like what I like to do. So that's not the way it is, but rather I'm just trying to give some insight into how I think as I am building a deck, especially for like a campaign that I do not know I am playing. If I'm just like trying to just build a deck for like a patron game day or something like that, this is usually what I like to do with this. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. I will say for the next 5 videos of this series, I'm going to be building for a Bless and Curse archetype for each of the classes. So we have Guardian Bless, Curse, Seeker Curse. We have Rogue, False Covenant. Rogue's a little bit strange. We can still build a deck for it, but they're kind of paradoxical. Paradoxical Mystic, and then Survivor Bless. So those will be the next 5 that we have for this series. I want to thank you for your support on this one because it is actually pretty sweet. You guys seem to enjoy these ones, so I hope you enjoyed this one as well. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to go above and beyond and support the channel, you can do so by joining our Patreon, which you can find down in the video description. You can join all the names up here. I release 2 deck lists every month and a video every week, depending on the tier that you are on. In the meantime, you can also support by liking, commenting, subscribing, yada, 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 all the normal YouTuber stuff to end a video. In the meantime, have a good one, and as always, GG's!